There are moments when life quietly offers us a blank page, not because everything that came before no longer matters, but because we've grown enough to begin writing a different story. The Cancer new moon arrives as one of those moments. It invites us to pause, reflect, and choose what we want to nurture from this point forward, not through pressure or perfection, but through small, intentional steps that honor who we're becoming. In today's reflection, we'll explore why meaningful change begins with emotional foundations instead of dramatic decisions, how tiny daily habits shape the future more than occasional bursts of motivation, and a simple practice to help you plant one intention that can continue growing long after this new moon has passed. Every lasting transformation begins the same way, with one conscious choice. New moons have always been associated with beginnings, not because something magical happens overnight, but because they invite us to become more intentional about the direction we're already moving. Unlike a full moon, which often brings clarity through completion, a new moon begins in darkness. The sky grows quiet. The light hasn't disappeared. It's simply hidden from view, reminding us that the most important stages of growth are often invisible at first. Think about how nature begins. A seed doesn't announce itself the moment it's planted. It doesn't rush to break through the soil. For a while, all of its growth happens beneath the surface, where no one can see it. Our emotional lives follow a remarkably similar rhythm. The most meaningful changes rarely begin with dramatic breakthroughs. They begin with subtle shifts in awareness. A new boundary you finally decide to honor. A conversation you've been ready to have. A habit that brings a little more peace into your day. A kinder response to the voice that has criticized you for years. From the outside, these moments may appear insignificant, yet they often become the foundation for everything that follows. The Cancer new moon gently reminds us that our future isn't built only by the goals we set. It's shaped by the emotional environment we create within ourselves. Imagine trying to grow a beautiful garden. Most of your attention wouldn't be on the flowers. It would be on the soil. Healthy roots need healthy ground. In much the same way, healthy dreams need a healthy emotional foundation. This is why rushing rarely creates lasting change. When we chase quick transformation without caring for our inner world, we often find ourselves repeating the same patterns in different circumstances. The scenery changes. The habits remain. The new moon offers another path. Instead of asking, "What do I want to achieve?" it quietly asks, "Who do I want to become while I'm achieving it?" That single question shifts the focus from outcomes to identity. It reminds us that every meaningful goal is ultimately supported by the person we become along the way. As this new moon approaches, give yourself permission to slow down. You don't need to have every answer. You don't need a perfect 5-year plan. You simply need enough honesty to recognize what deserves your attention now. Growth doesn't ask for certainty. It asks for care. And every small act of care becomes another seed planted in the emotional garden you're creating for your future. The beautiful part is that those seeds begin changing you long before anyone else can see them. One of the most empowering realizations this Cancer new moon can bring is that your future is shaped less by your intentions and more by your identity. Most people begin a new chapter by asking, "What do I want to accomplish?" It's a natural question, but it often leads us toward temporary motivation instead of lasting transformation, because goals can inspire us for a while. Identity quietly guides us every single day. Imagine two people deciding to take better care of themselves. One says, "I want to exercise this month." The other says, "I want to become someone who respects their body." The actions may look similar at first, but over time, the difference becomes profound. The first person is trying to complete a task. The second is becoming a different version of themselves. One depends on motivation. The other is supported by identity. The Cancer new moon invites us to think this way about every area of our lives. Instead of asking, "What habit should I start?" you might ask, "What kind of person naturally lives this way?" Perhaps you want more peace. What does a peaceful person practice every day? Perhaps you want stronger relationships. How does someone who values connection speak, listen, and respond? Perhaps you want greater confidence. What small choices would someone who trusts themselves make today? These questions gently shift your attention from chasing outcomes to embodying qualities. And that's where real change begins. Our lives are shaped by the decisions we repeat, not the dramatic ones we make once or twice each year, the ordinary ones. The thoughts we entertain, the words we speak to ourselves, the boundaries we honor, the moments we choose presence instead of distraction. Each choice casts a quiet vote for the person we're becoming. One decision may seem insignificant, but hundreds of similar decisions slowly become a personality, a lifestyle, a future. This is why the new moon asks us to plant carefully, not because one intention will magically change everything overnight, but because every healthy intention has the potential to grow into a healthy pattern, and healthy patterns eventually become a fulfilling life. As you reflect during this lunar cycle, don't put pressure on yourself to become a completely different person. Simply choose one quality that feels ready to grow. Then allow your daily actions to support it with patience rather than perfection. A seed never forces itself to become a tree. It simply continues growing in the direction of the light. Perhaps that's all this new moon is asking of you as well. Not to become everything at once, only to keep growing toward the person you already know you're capable of becoming. There's another reason the Cancer new moon feels so powerful. It reminds us that every life is built twice, first in the mind, then in the world around us. Before any meaningful change becomes visible, it begins as a quiet decision repeated often enough to become familiar. That's why lasting transformation rarely starts with dramatic action. It starts with consistency. Think about the habits that shape your mornings. Most of them happen without conscious effort. You wake up, reach for your phone, brush your teeth, make your coffee. You don't debate each decision. Your brain has learned the pattern and it simply follows it. The same thing happens emotionally. Over time, we develop habits of thought. Some people automatically assume the best in themselves. Others automatically criticize themselves before anyone else has the chance. Some expect solutions. Others instinctively search for problems. Most of these patterns weren't chosen deliberately. They were repeated until they became familiar. The encouraging news is that what has been learned can also be gently reshaped, not through force, through repetition. Every time you pause before reacting in frustration, you're strengthening patience. Every time you choose self-compassion instead of harsh self-judgment, you're strengthening acceptance. Every time you return your attention to what truly matters instead of becoming lost in comparison, you're strengthening inner peace. These moments may last only seconds, yet your mind remembers them. With enough repetition, what once felt intentional begins to feel natural. This is how emotional habits become emotional character. The Cancer new moon invites us to work with this process instead of against it. Rather than trying to transform your entire life overnight, ask yourself a much gentler question. What is one small action that reflects the person I'm becoming? It might be taking 5 slow breaths before starting your day, writing down one thing you're grateful for each evening, speaking to yourself with a little more kindness after making a mistake, protecting an hour of quiet without feeling guilty. None of these actions seem life-changing on their own, but that's the beauty of them. Small actions are easy to repeat, and repeated actions become lasting change. Imagine placing a single stone every day to build a path. One stone doesn't seem significant, neither does the second. But after weeks and months, you look back and realize you've created something strong enough to walk on. Your future is built in much the same way, not through one extraordinary decision, but through ordinary choices made with extraordinary consistency. This new moon doesn't ask you to become perfect. It simply invites you to become intentional. Because the life you're hoping to create tomorrow is quietly taking shape through the choices you make today. One of the quiet gifts of the Cancer new moon is that it asks us to pay attention to something we often overlook. Not our biggest goals, our daily emotional habits. Most people believe their future is shaped by major decisions. Changing careers, moving to a new city, starting a relationship, reaching an important milestone. Those moments certainly matter, but they don't happen every day. Your emotional habits do. Every morning, you practice a way of seeing the world. You practice a way of speaking to yourself. You practice a way of responding when life doesn't go according to plan. Those small patterns become the emotional atmosphere you live in. And just like a plant grows according to the environment around it, Your inner life grows according to the emotional conditions you create each day. This new moon offers a beautiful opportunity to become more intentional about those conditions. Notice what you feed your attention. Notice the conversations you repeat inside your own mind. Notice how quickly you forgive yourself after making a mistake. Notice whether you celebrate your progress or immediately move the finish line a little farther away. These aren't small details. They're the habits that quietly shape your relationship with yourself. Many of us have spent years believing that discipline means constantly pushing harder, but emotional resilience often grows through a different approach: gentleness, consistency, self-respect. Think about how you would care for a young tree. You wouldn't pull on its branches to make it grow faster. You would water it regularly, protect its roots, give it sunlight, and trust the process. Perhaps your own growth deserves that same patience. Instead of asking yourself every day, "Am I there yet?" try asking, "Did I nourish the person I'm becoming today?" The answer doesn't need to be perfect. Some days the victory will be obvious. Other days it might simply be that you kept going when giving up felt easier. Those moments count. In fact, they often matter the most, because resilience isn't built on perfect days. It's built on ordinary days when you continue choosing your values, even when your emotions fluctuate. As this new moon begins another lunar cycle, remember that your future isn't waiting to surprise you one day. It's quietly taking shape through the emotional habits you practice today. And every habit rooted in patience, kindness, courage, or self-trust becomes another seed growing beneath the surface, preparing to bloom in its own perfect season. This Cancer new moon offers more than a moment of reflection. It offers an opportunity to practice becoming the person you want to be, one small choice at a time. Over the next few days, I'd like to invite you into a simple exercise called One Seed, One Habit. Rather than creating a long list of goals, choose just one emotional quality you want to strengthen during this lunar cycle. Not something you want to achieve, something you want to embody. Perhaps it's patience. Perhaps it's courage. Maybe it's self-trust, inner peace, compassion, presence, or the ability to respond instead of react. Take a moment to write that one quality at the top of a page. Now ask yourself a second question. If this quality were already part of who I am, what is one small action I would naturally take each day? Keep the answer incredibly simple. If your intention is patience, you might pause for one deep breath before responding during difficult conversations. If it's self-trust, perhaps you'll spend 5 quiet minutes each morning listening to your own thoughts before reaching for your phone. If it's gratitude, you could end each evening by remembering one moment that brought you genuine appreciation. The action itself isn't the goal, it's the reminder. Each time you repeat it, you're sending your mind a quiet message. This is the kind of person I'm becoming. Psychologists often describe lasting change as something that grows through repeated experiences rather than repeated intentions. The more often your actions reflect your desired identity, the more natural that identity begins to feel. You stop trying to become someone new. You begin recognizing someone who has been growing within you all along. That's why this exercise matters. It's not about changing your entire life before the next new moon. It's about planting one healthy seed and caring for it consistently. Some days you'll remember, some days you'll forget. That's completely normal. Growth has never required perfection. It only asks for a willingness to begin again. Every morning becomes another opportunity to water that seed. Every evening becomes another opportunity to notice how it's quietly taking root. By the end of this lunar cycle, you may discover that the greatest transformation wasn't the habit itself. It was the relationship you built with yourself through the simple act of showing up, one day after another. Because lasting change is rarely created through extraordinary effort. It's created through ordinary moments filled with intention, repeated often enough to become the foundation of a new life. As this Cancer new moon settles in, remember that every new beginning carries 2 possibilities. You can continue living from old patterns, or you can begin responding from the person you're choosing to become. That choice rarely arrives with fanfare. It appears quietly in ordinary moments. The next time life doesn't unfold the way you expected, the next difficult conversation, the next unexpected delay. The next moment when your inner critic begins speaking a little louder than your own wisdom. Those are the moments that shape your future, not because they're easy, because they offer you an opportunity to choose differently. A new moon isn't a promise that life will suddenly become effortless. It's a reminder that every day gives us another chance to respond with greater awareness. Perhaps that's what real transformation has always been, not changing everything at once, changing one response, then another, until those small responses slowly become your natural way of moving through life. When you begin living this way, you stop waiting for confidence before taking action. Confidence grows because your actions become aligned with your values. You stop searching for constant certainty. Trust begins replacing the need to control every outcome. You stop measuring yourself only by visible achievements. Instead, you notice something much deeper: the calmness with which you face uncertainty, the patience you offer yourself during difficult seasons, the compassion that now feels more natural than criticism. These are the quiet signs that your inner world is changing. And when your inner world changes, your outer life gradually follows. This new moon reminds us that the future isn't something waiting in the distance. It's something we're practicing today, with every thought we choose to believe, every habit we choose to repeat, every act of kindness we extend toward ourselves and others. Those choices become the roots of a life that feels steady, meaningful, and deeply authentic. As this new lunar cycle begins, let yourself trust the pace of your own growth. A tree doesn't question whether it's growing because it can't see its roots. It simply continues reaching toward the light day after day. You can do the same. Continue showing up. Continue caring for the life you're building. Continue becoming the person your future will quietly thank you for, one thoughtful choice at a time. As we come to the close of this reflection, remember that the Cancer new moon isn't asking you to become a different person overnight. It's inviting you to care more intentionally for the life you're already creating. Growth has a quiet rhythm. It isn't measured by how quickly you move. It's measured by how faithfully you return to what matters. Every time you choose patience over urgency, presence over distraction, compassion over self-criticism, you're shaping a future that reflects those same qualities. These choices may seem small today, yet they're creating the emotional foundation you'll continue building upon in the weeks and months ahead. So as this new lunar cycle begins, give yourself permission to grow naturally. You don't need to force the next chapter. You don't need to have every answer before taking the first step. Simply remain present. Care for the habits that nourish you. Protect the peace you've worked so hard to cultivate. And continue planting the kind of thoughts, words, and actions that future you will be grateful to inherit. When life feels uncertain, return to your intention. When old patterns appear, gently choose again. When progress feels invisible, remember that some of the strongest roots grow where no one can see them. Trust that your consistent care is making a difference, even before the results become visible. Thank you for sharing this time with me. If today's reflection brought you a little more clarity, hope, or encouragement, I'd love for you to continue this journey with us here at Daily Inner Alignment. In our next reflection, we'll explore how Mercury's journey into Leo encourages us to express ourselves with greater confidence, authenticity, and heart, discovering that finding your voice isn't about speaking louder, but about speaking more truthfully. Until then, be gentle with yourself. Stay curious. Keep watering the seeds you've planted. And trust that every mindful choice you make today is quietly becoming the life you'll one day look back on with gratitude. Take care, and I'll see you in the next Daily Inner Alignment.